What's up, ladies? I'm Coach Brickentress. I have an important video for you today, and it involves training glutes through pregnancy. So there's some gray area here because doctors are the experts with pregnancy, but not necessarily with strength training. And personal trainers and strength coaches are the experts in strength training, but not necessarily pregnancy. Here's what I did to make this video. I took 4 ladies that were in their 3rd trimester. I brought them into the lab. We did a bunch of exercises and I interviewed them. And the first thing I want to tell you about training through pregnancy is that there's a typical pattern associated with the 3 trimesters. So here's what to expect during the 1st trimester. You're tired, you have morning sickness, nausea, you just don't feel like training. So the 1st trimester is rough. And then the 2nd trimester, that's your golden window. Your energy comes back, you have a return to normalcy, and you can kind of resume your normal training. And then the 3rd trimester, you start to slow down. It's more day to day. You have more random aches and pains. You have issues with round ligament pain and sciatica. And in general, you can't plan out much because you have to work around how you feel. But nevertheless, you can and should train glutes throughout your whole pregnancy, and I'm here to show you how to do it. But the second thing I want to say about training through pregnancy is that it's very individual specific, like how to go about it. So I recall training one client, and she loved doing front squats. She couldn't do any single leg exercise. They hurt her SI joint. But she could do plenty of stuff still, and she kept her glutes, she kept her leg mass and kept her glute size. And then you want to do that because then after pregnancy, you're in a better position to take yourself to a new personal best. And then I've trained another client who loved wide stance stuff, another during pregnancy who couldn't tolerate wide stance, one that loved abduction work, another that didn't like it that much through pregnancy. So it's so specific to the individual. So in this video, I'm going to give you a lot of tips with different exercises, but also just expose you to exercise that these 4 ladies commonly performed throughout their pregnancy. So I hope it's beneficial to you. I've got a couple of ladies with me. This is Amber and Vanessa. Now Amber is 28 weeks and Vanessa is 34 weeks pregnant. So we're going to show you first how to hip thrust while you're pregnant, while you're very pregnant, 3rd trimester, and also other things you can do to keep your glutes strong while pregnant. So we're not using any weight, but we've got a hip circle right above the knees, and this is an amazing exercise. Now Amber is pushing out against the bands as hard as possible on the way up and down. A lot of people only push outwards on the way up, push outwards on the way down, and not going too deep here. She's going to go for 3 sets of 20 here. You feel that in glutes? And same thing here. Pushing outwards as hard as possible on the way up and down. Not going too deep. Again, 3 sets of 20. This will get your glutes lit up. Okay, so here are some modifications we made. You can start going. I've got Amber's feet out a little further than normal, so she's not going to be perpendicular shins. And she has the bar pushed forward, so it's not pushing up against her lower abdomen, and she's just not going as deep. But as you can see here, she's getting a good end range glute squeeze. She's working her glutes at end range hip extension, which is going to complement all the flexed hip extension stuff we do, like squats and lunges and all these things, which we'll go over later. So you want to do things that strengthen the end range. So this is a great candidate here. You can still do barbell hip thrusts, just don't go so deep. And Amber, do you feel a lot of pressure on the low abs?
No, not at all.
Not at all. And do you feel it in your glutes?
Yes.
Okay. So this is one thing you can do. Just barbell hip thrusts, just don't go as deep, and put the feet out a little more, and then keep the bar pushed forward a little bit. And same thing with Vanessa here. Feet are out further, not going very deep, pushing the bar forward. And you can see here, she's 34 weeks pregnant. You're not pushing up against the bowl of the belly here. It's not a lot of pressure here, so it's fine. She's just doing little pulses. It's about probably like 4-inch range of motion, but you feel it in your glutes?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got Lacee here, and Lacee is 37 weeks pregnant. She's ready to burst. And here we're going to show you how to set up for the hip thrust. So she's going to come up, but watch as she climbs her way up. So from here she's going to kind of bridge up and then drag her feet back. This way she never put too much pressure there on the bump. Now she's got the bar pushed forward and you can see her arms kind of pushing forward, and she's going to come down and just dip down, not too far, come back up. So here she's doing hip thrust. It's just a shorter range of motion. Come down, come up. Let's bust out 5 reps. So just the whole time she's pushing the bar forward a little bit, keeping the pressure off of that region. So, not too much pressure on the bump at all, and still fitting your glutes, right? Good. Now, if you have access to an even thinner pad, we use thick bar pads, but this is a Harbinger pad. It's way thinner, but this lets her go deeper and without putting the pressure there. So if you do have access to a smaller pad, please use it. Okay, I've got Brandy here with me, and she's 28 weeks pregnant. Now, this is her 4th pregnancy, so she's had 3 kids, but her 3 previous pregnancies, the baby sat up higher in her belly. This one's situated low, so this is a perfect opportunity to show that even with a low pregnancy, you can still perform band hip thrust. So Brandy's going to come up, and you'll see the path of the band. It's low there. Her baby's here. She can feel the head right around here, right? Yeah. She knows the head is right here, and here's the band placement, and she's just going to pump out some reps. Now, down deep, there's not a lot of pressure on these bands. A great exercise for pregnant ladies if you can figure out how to do the bands. Obviously, this is a hip thruster, but you can also do it out of some power racks or situate dumbbells or other things. You feel that in the glutes? Yeah. Frog pumps. Some people love them, some people not so much. If you don't like the frog pumps, you can just do wide stance or narrower stance or narrow stance abducted. But the point is, you don't always have to be going super heavy. You can use lighter load or even body weight or mini bands and achieve an awesome glute workout. You can see you're not going too deep. You also have some extra load there naturally. So I recommend doing like 3 sets of 50 frog pumps. So here you have the Smith machine hip thrust, and this is great for pregnant women because it's very stable and controlled. And again, she's keeping the bar out in front and not going so deep. 3 sets of 12 is a good starting point for those. Sumo deads are a great exercise. The wider stance lets the kind of the belly sink in between the legs, so there's not a lot of pressure. Here's the good morning. You can do this sumo stance or conventional or narrow stance, and just see she's sitting back and not kind of going so deep. Here's goblet squats. Notice she keeps the elbows in between the knees. Or you can do dumbbell squats, double dumbbell squats like this in the rack position. And notice she doesn't go so deep here. So some women feel comfortable going deeper than others. And here's dumbbell sumo squats. And kind of notice that end range glute squeeze. So you don't have to go so heavy. You can get a great glute workout without using so much weight. Here's knee banded squats. You can do these for high reps. Leg press is a good alternative. You may or not be able to go that deep, but there's nothing wrong with cutting the range of motion short a little bit. Wide stance is good on those. Here's curtsy lunges. And again, you can see you're not going so deep here. You're not putting a lot of pressure on the belly. Next up, we have Bulgarian split squats. Again, the thigh probably gets to parallel here. You're not going rock bottom. Knee banded glute bridges. Lateral band walks. So when people say you can't train glutes through pregnancy, of course you can do lateral band walks and things like that, unless there's some crazy complication or something. But ankle weights are great for training during pregnancy. Here's kickback variation. And then even if you don't have ankle weights, here you can do quadruped kickbacks. You can either do straight leg or bent leg. You just want to make sure you don't hyperextend the spine too much. And now the seated hip abduction machine. This is a staple in any glute training regimen, but during pregnancy it's well suited because it's very stable. It's not going to interfere with the belly. We like 3 sets of 20 on those. Or you could do band seated hip abduction, and you can do that leaning back, upright, or leaning forward. Then finally, here's fire hydrant, which you can do with or without a band. So let's talk about bar placement during pregnancy. So normally you would have the bar right above the pubic bone, and it's resting on abdominal musculature right here, and hopefully it's also resting on hip flexor musculature on the sides. That's how it is for me. I actually used to hip thrust without a bar pad, and I'd get a big bruise here, but I could tolerate like 600-pound hip thrusts. But yeah, it would give me a bruise. Then once I started using a thick bar pad, I felt more glute activation because I had no pain, but it wasn't excruciating. If your pelvis happens to be shaped in a way that the bar right above your pubic bone is resting on bone, then it's excruciatingly painful, and even then, you can have a thick bar pad like a squat sponge, and it still hurts. So for those types of clients, which is maybe like 1 in 6 or 1 in 8 female clients, I have to double up on bar padding and use a squat sponge and a Hampton thick bar pad or something else, an Eric's and a squat sponge or something. But I digress. For pregnancy, you will actually put the bar on the other side of the pubic bone. So this is not ideal. It's not optimal for glute activation because you want something pushing straight down on the hips. And the hip joint centers are right here, so this is perfect placement to push the hips straight down. If it's up higher or lower, then it's not an effective load placement. You want it right there at the hips, but if it's a little bit forward, you're still going to get a lot of glute activation out of it. But the benefit is that your belly will start here. You won't be in jeopardy of pushing up against the belly. So it protects the belly and the fetus, and you don't have to worry about it being problematic, but you're still going to get a lot of glute activation, especially if you put the feet out a little bit further and just don't go quite as deep, you know, so the load's here and you're just not going as deep, and then you're not going to be pushed. If you were to put the bar here and go super deep, you'd see that this would be pushing well up into the lower belly and could be problematic for the fetus. So there you have it. I hope you picked up some new tips and some good exercise to perform during pregnancy. Of course, I want to offer this disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor. I just have my PhD in sports science and biomechanics, so take that for what it's worth. Obviously, if you embark on an exercise regimen, run it through your doctor, make sure it's okay, and make sure you don't have any complications. There is a concern about performing supine exercise, but I've looked into it and I'm not too concerned about doing a set of hip thrusts, for example, or a set of glute bridges. If it's sustained exercise for 30 minutes, that would be one thing, but I don't feel like you have to worry. According to one study, it did not seem to be problematic, so it's my personal opinion that doesn't matter, but once again, I'm not a doctor. I encourage you to experiment with different exercise and variations, and I guarantee you're going to be able to find a bunch that work well for your body and your anatomy and your physiology. Thank you for watching.